When Andrei enrolled in school, he had ambitious plans for the future. He believed that trendy professions would be highly sought after. However, after 6 months of fruitless searching for a job, he realized that he had been too hasty in his decision-making. Consequently, he began searching for an alternative career option that was both in demand and rewarding. One day, he happened to meet a friend who informed him about the need for supply clerks in the market. Essentially, this role involved traveling with an assistant to villages and either negotiating contracts for the supply of natural products or purchasing them directly. Fortunately, Andrei's friend, who had previously worked in market security, offered to put in a good word for him. Thanks to his friend's support, Andrei successfully secured the position. Initially, Andrei worked as an assistant driver and gradually transitioned to operating independently. The work not only proved profitable, but also exciting due to the opportunity to explore new places and meet new people. In remote villages, particularly those lacking nearby vendors, natural products were available at minimal cost, allowing Andrei to generate a significant profit. Andrei had a deep fondness for money, not merely stashing it away, but rather saving it over the first 3 months to renovate his apartment. He aspired to have a luxurious living space, similar to those showcased on television. Following another year of work, Andrei replaced nearly all of his furniture. On one occasion, Andrei was taken to a village located around 200 kilometers away from the city. Upon arrival, he immediately noticed a large and sturdy house. Adjacent to the house, there was a small tractor and numerous chickens and geese roaming around. It dawned on Andrei that this could be a great opportunity to maximize his car's capacity. As expected, the family residing there was hardworking and adhered to rural customs. Since there were no nearby cottages to sell their produce to, they had to travel a significant distance to the city, resulting in transportation challenges. Realizing this, Andrei arrived at the right moment. An agreement was reached that Andrei would visit once every 2 weeks to collect all the items they had prepared, including sour cream, eggs, meat, and potatoes. They quickly settled on a fair price, and once again, Andrei found himself in a profitable position. However, during his 3rd visit, as he entered the house, Andrei's attention was immediately drawn to a girl present there. He was utterly captivated by her natural beauty, evident even without a trace of makeup. Specifically, he was mesmerized by her thick, black braid, a sight he had never seen before. Her pristine face, complete with natural black eyebrows, enhanced her allure. Additionally, she was dressed in modern clothing, and had she worn a sundress, she could easily have posed for a painting. "Hi there. Are you here to see your dad?" "He's in the garden. Let me call him for you." "No need, I'll wait." Andrei couldn't take his eyes off her. He knew he looked foolish, but he couldn't help it. "Can I pour you some tea? Maybe. Something seems off about you." Andrei realized the girl was openly mocking him. He smiled. She wasn't completely oblivious. "I could have some tea, but only if it's not poisoned." The girl laughed. Andrei had never heard such a joyful laughter before, like the sound of bells. He accidentally burned himself while staring at her while Yana made the tea. "Oh, I see you two have met." "Oh, good. Andrei, I was just getting everything ready." "Yeah, well, I'll finish my tea and leave. Then give the money to Yana. I have to go tie up the bull at the new place." "All right, Nikolaich, as you say." Andrei finished his tea and they went outside. The assistant carried bags and boxes, while Andrei weighed and counted. After summing up, he handed the money to Yana. "Yana, do you live here all the time?" "No, I'm studying." "But not in your town, in the district center." "And what will you be? If you don't mind me asking." "It's not a secret. I'm studying to become a nurse." "Why didn't you go to a big city?" "There are more career options there." "Well, not everyone has to conquer big cities. Small towns have their own charm too." Andrei couldn't find the right words to respond. He left, but Yana remained on his mind. He even invited a girl he occasionally met with, who still hoped to win Andrei over and get married. However, when he accidentally called her Yana twice, the girl got furious and left. 2 days later, Andrei had a day off and decided to drive to that village. A fishing trip seemed like a good idea. Nikolai was surprised at first, but then smiled when he heard about the fishing. It's about time. You've never been fishing. Now's the perfect opportunity. I happen to be the best fisherman on vacation. Andrei looked at him in surprise. You have a son? I thought you only had a daughter. No, I didn't have a son, only a daughter. But she can outsmart any fisherman, including myself. Andrei never imagined you would be so fortunate. Going fishing with Yana was beyond his wildest dreams. Yana attentively listened to her father. Of course, Dad. I'll teach the city man how to catch fish, she replied. Her father looked at her skeptically. Don't play tricks on him. He's never caught a fish before. You'll have to show him. Yana smiled mischievously. All right, city man, let's go get some bait, she said, as she noticed his pristine white shoes. Do you have any other shoes? She asked. Confused, he replied. No, why? Can we get dirty while fishing? Nikolai chuckled, and Yana laughed along with him. She went to the pantry and returned with a pair of boots. These peculiar boots were called Zakoleniki and barely reached Andrei's knee. Oddly enough, Yana had the same boots, just a smaller size. Andrei descended from the porch, giving the impression that he was walking on stilts. Yana looked at him and asked, Are you still planning on rolling up your pants? Andrei was completely lost. What rolling? We're rolling. Yana pointed to her boots, which cleverly rolled up below the knee. Yana realized it was all quite complicated. She rolled her eyes and unfolded one of her boots, demonstrating how to do it. Andrei attempted to do the same and felt like a clever student. Yana handed him a jar with a lid that had holes in it. What's this for? He asked. It's to ensure the bait doesn't suffocate, she explained with a mischievous grin. Is the bait alive? He asked dubiously. Very much alive, she confirmed. Andrei felt foolish for not considering worms. He wrinkled his nose, thinking that he could use bread or dough instead, to avoid getting his hands dirty with this mess. Nevertheless, he obediently followed Yana. However, Andrei underestimated her. He soon realized that she had a different plan in mind. She led him behind the stable, where an overpowering stench of manure filled the air. Yana lifted a lid, revealing a swarm of large white caterpillars swimming in a dark liquid. Oh, what's that? Andrei asked curiously. Why not? These are bait called oporods. You can catch normal fish with them. And if you want a crucian carp, bread can work too, replied Yana. Maybe starting with a crucian carp is enough for me, suggested Andrei. No way. Fishing means fishing. Let's make the most of our time, Yana insisted. Andrei closed his eyes and reached into the slimy mess to pick up caterpillars. He heard Yana laughing and opened his eyes to find the creepy creatures crawling on his hand. Disgusted, he sniffed his hand and wrinkled his nose. Yana continued to laugh, showing him a small net. Embarrassed, Andrei thought to himself, next time, I'll ask to go hunting. Fishing is not for me. He felt tired, dirty, and resentful. They reached the lake shore, and Andrei was already exhausted. However, Yana remained cheerful and energetic. Andrei realized that hunting would definitely be more to his liking than fishing. He was just not in the mood for this fishing trip. As they untied the boat, Yana handed Andrei an oar and pointed to the other shore. He started rowing and soon felt blisters forming on his palms. It was uncomfortable. Yana whispered for him to stop in the middle of the lake and signaled for silence. She sat down next to him. Let me show you how to bait, she offered. Skillfully, she planted an oporod on the hook of her fishing rod. Then she noticed the blisters on Andrei's palms, holding his hand and turning it over. She shook her head, making Andrei feel ashamed, as if he was somehow defective. She gestured where to cast the rod, and Andrei followed her instructions. Within minutes, the float twitched, leaving Andrei confused. Yana took the rod from him and whispered, "Hook it and reel it in." Just like that, a big fish. Andrei's eyes widened in surprise. He continued fishing and managed to catch another fish on his own. Yana was no longer by his side. He baited the hook himself and successfully caught more fish. As he realized that he couldn't see the float anymore, he noticed that it had gotten dark outside. Yana stood up in the middle of the boat and guided them back to the shore. "Need any help?" Andrei offered. "Sit down. You won't be able to do anything with your hands later." "My mom has an ointment that will take care of them by morning," Yana replied. They returned home with a wonderful catch. Yana took a big knife and a basin to clean the fish, with Andrei following closely behind. "May I?" Andrei asked, taking a seat on one of the numerous stumps in the yard. "Of course, go ahead and sit," Yana replied with a smile. She could see that Andrei's words were sincere. "Thank you so much, Yana. It's been a long time since I felt so alive." Andrei expressed his appreciation. "Well, you're welcome. I was just in a good mood and feeling bored. Glad I could share some of that with you," Yana responded, laughing. "Yeah, sometimes we all need a little shake-up. Otherwise we start thinking we're invincible," Andrei remarked. They continued to talk until Yana's mother interrupted. "Young people, it's time for dinner," Yana's mother called out. "Mom, coming right away. Just finishing up the last 2 fish," Yana informed her. "All right, your dad and I will be waiting," her mother replied. Yana quickly cleaned and washed the fish before bringing it into the house. Andrei followed suit and entered the house, immediately enticed by the mouth-watering aromas. As a gesture of appreciation, Andrei had brought an expensive bottle of cognac for his hosts. He hurried to fetch it from the car and presented it to Nikolai, Yana's father. "Thank you so much," Nikolai expressed his gratitude. "You're welcome. It's for a special occasion, but I'd love to try your homemade drink," Andrei responded. Nikolai smiled and went to fetch a bottle of his cranberry infusion. "This is a cranberry infusion. You'll feel its strength when you take a sip. It's a good thing you're here. There aren't many people to drink with when it's just me and the ladies," Nikolai explained. Andrei was known for not being able to handle large amounts of alcohol, so he simply smiled in response. Yana looked at him with pity, but Andrei caught her gaze and teasingly responded. Nikolai poured the drink, and Andrei made a toast in honor of Yana. They clinked glasses and Andrei took a sip. Instantly, his eyes darkened and he struggled to breathe. In a panic, Yana quickly handed him a glass of compote, which helped him regain his composure. "What was that?" 100 proof alcohol, Andrei asked, trying to catch his breath. Nikolai chuckled. "It's not 100 proof, but it's 75. I don't make anything weaker. It's good for your digestion. Andrei, make sure to have a snack, or you might fall asleep at the table if you're not used to it." Andrei started chewing with great enthusiasm. He indulged in the flavorful combination of fried lard with meat, pickles, and an abundance of herbs. The jars of sour cream and the boiled and fried potatoes with dill were equally enticing. Andrei couldn't resist trying a slice of thinly sliced, salted and smoked lard before realizing he was reaching his limit. The dishes were so enticing that Andrei finally understood why people are willing to pay a premium for natural and delicious food. After another shot of liquor, Andrei felt the need to find a place to rest before he lost his balance. Nikolai noticed his condition and advised, "You should go lie down." "Well done, most of my guests can barely stand after just 1 shot. But you managed a second." Andrei struggled to his feet, feeling a bit woozy, but not wanting to show it. Jana directed him towards a sofa behind a partition. Barely having the chance to undress, Andrei fell asleep. In the morning, he woke up to the sounds of a bustling household. The smell of something frying wafted from the kitchen, reminiscent of cheesecakes or maybe even potato pancakes. Jana's soft voice floated through the air as she spoke to her mother. Andrei was afraid to make any sudden movements, fearful that his headache would intensify as it usually did. However, to his surprise, his head felt fine. Gathering his courage, he entered the kitchen and greeted the busy landlady with, "Good morning. You didn't wake me up. I slept so well. I haven't slept this well in a long time." Turning to Jana, he wanted to ask her something, but found himself momentarily speechless. The girl sat on a chair, swinging her legs back and forth. Her hair was unbraided, reaching down her back and almost touching the floor. Unable to contain his admiration, Andrei exclaimed, "Jana, you look beautiful." Surprised by his genuine compliment, Jana blushed, caught off guard by his sincerity. Her mother observed the exchange, baffled by her daughter's uncharacteristic restraint. Normally, Jana's sharp tongue kept everyone at a distance, but now she seemed different. When it was time for Andrei to leave during lunchtime, Jana presented him with a fish. "Will you take your catch?" she asked. Andrei replied, "Why bother? I wouldn't know how to cook it anyways." It was just enjoyable to fish, especially with the best fisherwoman like yourself. Jana felt a moment of confusion before looking at him and suggesting, "Come back next weekend. It's duck hunting season. Can you boil a duck? You boil it in water, and then you pour the water into a pot." Andrei's smile brightened as he wondered what kind of girl he would encounter. He couldn't pick just anyone, she had to be special. Okay, he finally agreed. "I'll come, but on one condition. If I manage to shoot a duck, then you must cook it for dinner." Nikolai stood on the porch, eavesdropping on their conversation. He couldn't help but think that these fishing and hunting trips would never end. He made a mental note to tell his mother that Yanka would soon be getting married. Andrei had been eagerly anticipating the weekend all week. Jana had no idea that he was skilled in shooting. As soon as the weekend arrived, he bought gifts and made his way to the village. Jana's family warmly greeted him, and they wasted no time in starting their hunting expedition. In the evening, the entire family assisted Jana in the kitchen, offering advice and suggestions, since she did not enjoy cooking. Andrei took this opportunity to tease her playfully. 2 months later, they were married. Andrei wanted to celebrate their union in a restaurant, but Jana was insistent on having a rustic wedding. It was a beautiful Indian summer day, filled with serenity and tranquility. Andrei compromised and invited all their friends to the village, and he would later realize that it was the best decision they could have made. The celebration was filled with joy and memorable moments. They even roasted a whole ram on a spit during the party, and the young guests slept in the hayloft. Everyone agreed that it was the best celebration they had ever attended. Jana moved to the city to be with Andrei and found work at a nearby hospital. However, she quickly grew bored. They visited her parents occasionally, but it happened only once a month, or sometimes even less frequently. Andrei made an effort to introduce Jana to finer things like stylish clothing and modern music. Yet, she remained stubborn, always spreading napkins everywhere and wearing a bulky winter hat throughout the winter. No matter how many times he encouraged her, saying, "Yanotka, buy yourself a fur cap, we have the means," or suggesting she wear heeled boots, she remained set in her ways. She couldn't stop wondering, "Andrei, you know that cap is just a decoration. It doesn't provide any warmth, it's purely for aesthetics," she said. "Isn't that enough? I want you to look beautiful," he replied. "Decide, what kind of wife do you want? A beautiful one or a healthy one?" she questioned. Andrei clenched his fists in frustration. He had been so proud when she agreed to marry him. She was incredibly beautiful, and no one else would have such a stunning wife. However, there was always that rural disposition in her eyes, distorting the truth. No matter how much he tried to explain, no matter how hard he emphasized that it was wrong, it was all in vain. People are different, but Jana was something unique. Once at work, André attended a New Year's Eve party. It was filled with numerous people, including the market director's wife. She arrived wearing a bright yellow tight dress, which was quite unflattering considering her size was well beyond a size 50. Nevertheless, everyone was smiling and complimenting her beauty, except for Jana. Naturally, the boss's wife noticed this and decided to address it. "Didn't you like my dress?" she asked Jana, expecting a compliment. However, what Jana replied nearly cost André his job. "It's a beautiful dress, but it's just not suitable for you," she straightforwardly stated. Although it didn't cause a huge scandal, André was reprimanded by his boss. "Where did you find her? You need to explain that this kind of behavior is unacceptable in society." His boss scolded him. André returned home furious. They had been married for 3 years, and he was growing weary of Jana's rural habits. He stormed into the house, determined to have a serious conversation. As he entered the hallway, he noticed a patchwork rug lying on the expensive laminate floor. It was a vibrant combination of yellow and blue. That was the final straw. Filled with anger, he shouted, "Jana, what is this mess doing here?" Fueled by his rage, he threw the rug across the room with all his might. Jana appeared, her eyes filled with tears. "My mom made that for me when I was a little girl," she explained. "It reminds me of home." André paused for a moment, finally comprehending her perspective. "Jana," he said softly, "don't you understand? The village is over there. It's not here. It's true what they say, you can take the girl out of the village, but you can't take the village out of the girl. It's not about a specific gender. It's about an individual." Jana glanced at him with fear in her eyes. "André, please don't be angry. Why did you hurt the director's wife and make her angry, Jana?" André, he simply told her the truth. Woe needs your truth. Who needs it? Tell me, were you raised this way? Yes, I was taught to always tell the truth, Jana. When you were taught, you lived in the countryside. We're in the city now. That's it. I'm exhausted. I can't continue living with someone from the countryside. I don't want to, I can't. André packed his belongings into a suitcase. "When you find a job somewhere, call me and give me the keys to the apartment. And I'll go find a place in a private house where you can sit in the vegetable garden, just like you miss the land so much. You." André slammed the door, causing Jana to flinch. Was he joking? Where would she go? Why was she being called a hillbilly? Jana cried. It couldn't be. André would come back any moment now. But he didn't. Not that evening, not the next morning, not even a week later. Jana realized she had to pack her things. 3 weeks later, Jana made a call. She left a brief message saying that the keys were in the mailbox and immediately hung up. André was relieved she didn't want to talk to him. He had nothing to say, especially since he had a new love interest, a girl who seemed to epitomize urban life, who André believed wouldn't even know how to peel potatoes. Manicures, pedicures, false lashes. Everything he had dreamt of. Soon, he divorced Jana and proposed to his new beauty. Jana left her job at the hospital and found work as a nurse in a private clinic. She had excellent references. However, her salary wasn't enough, as she now had to pay for rent. She searched around for a while and realized that people here actually worked and didn't involve themselves in gossip and intrigue like her previous workplace. Perhaps it was because they were more conscious of their paychecks and knew what they could lose. Jana also noticed that the girls genuinely cared about the patients and put in effort. When all this became clear to Jana, she felt relieved. She could just focus on her work. For real, The girl always accepted any part-time jobs she was offered. Sitting at home was boring. One day, there was a commotion at the hospital as a wealthy and influential man arrived. People were running around, describing him as a beast with a bad temper, and feared that he would shut down the hospital if displeased. Despite his intimidating reputation, the man turned out to be a 32-year-old with appendicitis. He appeared visibly nervous as he was wheeled in on a gurney for examination, accompanied by 2 security guards. Jana, a hospital staff member, stood in their way and urged them to leave, assuring them that everything was sterile and that no harm would come to their boss. However, the guards hesitated and remained. Jenna approached the intimidating man and asked him to instruct his guards to leave. He insisted that they should stay, as they were always present, and he did not feel threatened by them. Jenna pointed out that the nurses would have to disinfect the area thoroughly after his departure, and questioned his self-centeredness. This piqued the man's curiosity, and he signaled for the guards to leave. Astonished, he asked Jenna if she was the only person in the hospital who didn't know who he was. She replied that she was aware of his identity, but didn't feel intimidated like everyone else. She saw him simply as a patient, and his wealth and power were not her concern. This response surprised the man, who had grown accustomed to people treating him differently. Before he could inquire further, the doctor and his entourage entered the room, momentarily interrupting their conversation. Sergei, the patient, wanted to ask Jana something else, but he fell asleep. When he woke up in the ward, he immediately requested to speak with the doctor. The doctor informed Sergei that the operation had been successful and that he could expect to have his stitches removed in 4 days and be discharged soon after. Sergei then asked if there was a specific nurse assigned to his room. The doctor confirmed that there were 2 nurses who rotated shifts. Sergei requested that the nurse who had prepared him for surgery be assigned to his room, even though he didn't know her name. The doctor recognized the nurse as Jana and agreed to make the arrangements. Later, the doctor called Jana and explained that Sergei, their important patient, specifically wanted her to be his nurse. Jana felt scared about the request, but the doctor assured her that there was nothing to worry about. Knowing Sergei's infamous temper, the doctor emphasized that she had the right to refuse, but Jana agreed to take on the role regardless. The doctor expressed his gratitude, relieved to have one less problem to deal with. In the evening, Jana went to check on Sergei, who was now her patient. "Good evening. I have been appointed as your nurse at your Majesty's request." Sergei observed her with keen interest. She was not only beautiful, but truly breathtaking. He couldn't detect a trace of makeup on her face, and even after rubbing his eyes, he couldn't believe his own eyes. Jenna approached with a needle in her hand. "Patient, please turn around. Be very careful." Sergei rolled onto his side, feeling the prick, and quickly returning to his original position. "Has anyone ever told you how beautiful you are?" Of course, almost all the patients who come out of anesthesia say the same thing. Sergei chuckled. He definitely had a fondness for this young woman. He searched for the right words to say to her. For a moment, Sergei felt a bit flustered. "Yana, can I ask you what your plans are for tonight?" The girl snorted. "I'll be working tonight. I have a very challenging patient, almost like dealing with a small child." Sergei stretched out resentfully. "I'm not difficult to handle." Yana adjusted his blanket. "Notice that I referred to you as a child, and you were not offended." She smiled. "Let's get some rest. I'll be back shortly." Sergei called the guard over. He whispered something in his ear and left immediately. Sergei pondered on the situation. He had only seen this girl twice, for a total of 5 minutes, yet he found himself wanting more and more of her company. He couldn't figure out if it was the effect of the anesthesia or something more. Soon the guard returned. He brought back everything that Sergei had mentioned. When Yona entered the room, Sergei was already eagerly anticipating her arrival. "Yona, would you like to go on a date tonight?" Yana, I'll take care of the challenging patient. Sergei handed her a bouquet of flowers. Yana was taken aback. Where did they come from? She accepted the flowers, looked at him, and burst out laughing. If you don't mind my gown being my evening dress, then I will come. Well, if you don't mind me wearing my pajamas, then that's perfectly fine. Andrei walked down the hallway. Today, his mother-in-law had arrived. She would be staying with them for a month and would surely get on his nerves. She was a difficult woman, always reminiscing about her noble heritage and referring to him as a simple villager. While it may not have been a lavish city, it was certainly not a village where he came from. Andrei. Ella Oligovna. It's nice to see you. How was your flight? Stop talking nonsense. Take the suitcases. Andrei obediently picked up the suitcases. Andrei, is that you? In surprise, he dropped both suitcases. Yana. It had only been 6 years since they broke up, but he would never be able to recognize her if he saw her on the street. However, she wasn't dressed like herself while walking down the street. There was a man standing next to Jana whom he had just seen on a TV program. The man was a young and highly successful businessman, accompanied by 2 guards. How are you, Andrei? Jana's mother-in-law asked, curiously observing the scene. I'm doing well. And you? Andrei replied, looking at his mother-in-law. I'm fine. We just flew back from America. Dad called and said that the homemade liquor is ready and we need to butcher the pig. Jana smiled at her husband. And my husband never misses such events, even though he's not from the countryside. Goodbye, Andrei, they said as they walked away. Andrei watched them go and thought to himself, flying back from America for homemade liquor and lard. It must be nice to be rich. Andrei, Jenna called out. Coming, he responded, shaking off his thoughts and dragging the suitcases towards the exit.